Hey everyone, welcome back to Collecting Nolan. This is Russ, and today's another Sensational Set Sunday. Today we're going to be talking about the 1994 Sports Stamps Collectors Association Guyana Farewell Collection, also known as the Guyana Stamps. So let's go ahead and get started. So, going over my cards for Brent Richards' show, if you haven't tuned into that, you should, because it was basically an hour and a half long of showing some Nolan Rhines with two of the best, Brent Richards and, of course, Jim Fogler. So if you haven't checked that out, please go ahead and do so. But when I was going through my cards to see what I could show, and I tried not to show some stuff that I've already shown already, I came across this set that was pretty interesting to me, so I pulled it open. And it was this set here, which is the Guyana stamp set, which is interesting in and of itself, because where's Guyana at? Guyana is actually a country in South America. It's in the northern part of South America, and it's east of Venezuela. I'll put a map here just so you can see what it looks like there. But apparently Guyana back in the 1990s made a lot of stamps, and they made this set to commemorate Nolan's retirement, or his 27 years in baseball and his retirement. So it's a 12 card set, kind of. It's actually a 13 card set. But let me just go ahead and show you what I have so far as to what the set is. So first it comes in this box. So let me just show you the box. So it says here, Premier Edition Farewell Collection, Nolan Rhine, with Nolan with doffing of his cap there. Pretty cool picture there. And on the back, it has 1993, 1965 to 1993. So, and this was produced by and distributed by the Sport Stamps Collectors Association, which when I was trying to look through some information on this, there's nothing on these guys. The closest thing that I could find was it's called the Sports Philatelists International, which I don't know if I even pronounced that right, but basically they are stamp collectors who are sports stamp collectors basically. But when I tried searching through their database of stamps, I could not find the set. However, when I opened up this box, I did find this certificate of authenticity, which, take it as you will. It says, this certificate guarantees that the stamps in my farewell collection are official postage issued by the government of Guyana. So, and on the back, so it's numbered on the front, 11,022 out of, I don't even know how many possible. But on the back, it does show some cool things. It lists all of his no-hitters and their dates. But also in the background, it shows, it says 7 no-hitters, 324 wins, and then 5,714 strikeouts. So when I did go look on some other websites as far as like Guyana stamps and things like that, it did pop up on one, but I don't know if these were meant to be like collector stamps or collector's edition cards, because they're not really built like stamps. They're built like cards. So let me just show you the first one. And these cards, let me just show you right now. These are pretty sweet. They got that nice black border there, and then it has like this red stamp-like inner border. And it's got great photography. And when I pulled these out, I noticed how glossy they were, the photos and things like that. And then with that gold facsimile signature, I just thought these were pretty awesome. So then when I looked at the back of the cards, uh, it has some great information about it. Here's what the back looks like. Now, in this one, it talks about how Red Murph basically was scouting Nolan Ryan in 1965, and he says here, I wanted to shout it out to the world, but I had to keep this kid top secret. So he knew just by looking at Nolan's arm and how strong it was and how fast he was throwing that this guy was going to be something, and he wanted to like tell everybody about it, but he had responsibility to the Mets, so he had to keep it a secret from everybody else. So, filling out that card for the Mets, he probably wrote some great stuff about his fastball and things like that. But just looking at these cards, though, I just think they're fantastic because one, they use. I mean, some of the photos are more common, like the next card, but this photo, I haven't seen that photo before, so I thought that was really cool. And of course, it includes the Mets logo, and these, I don't know, cards / stamps are trademarked by Major League Baseball, so they were able to use all like the logos and things like that. But if you look at it, it says Guyana at the top with a $350 postage. So Guyana, looking at some of the website stuff for like Guyana stamps, they do have some crazy stamp examples that have some crazy dollar amounts. Some of them ranging from like $20, and then this is the highest one I saw, which was like $350. So I don't quite understand what's going on here, and I'm not sure how these would be used as stamps, because stamps usually, you wet the back of them and you put them on your envelope. This doesn't have that. This is just a card. So I don't know if these were like designed with the stamps in mind, or if these were the stamps themselves. But I don't have a hard time believing that this is a stamp. So I'm just going to treat it like a card. So the second card, so Nolan played for 4 teams: Mets, Angels, Astros, and Rangers. And so this card set, for it being 12 cards, it has 3 cards from each team. So here's the second one for the Mets. And this picture I've seen on the Coca-Cola card from 1992, the Donruss. This picture is used for that. But again, facsimile signature. And on the back of this one, talks about how he was the 295th player in the 1965 draft. And then, little did anybody know that he'd become the first $1 million player in baseball history. Because when he signed for the Mets, it says here he signed for $500 a month, which, back being in 1965, I'm sure that was kind of okay money, but I would have to look that up. Maybe if I can, I'll put like an equivalent to what that would be up here if I can find it. If not, then we'll just pretend that it was kind of a pittance. So just a cool card there. But the backs use the same photo of young Nolan, older Nolan. So for the third card for the Mets, it was this one, which, just look how sharp these images are, and just the way they're laid out. The design of the card / stamp, or whatever you want to call these, is very clean, crisp. And I was just shocked by like how glossy they were, and just the eye appeal on them alone was what kind of pulled me into these. But they also put a bunch of great information on the back of these cards. So on the back of this one, it talks about his first major league start, which was back in 1968, and he pitched against the Astros, actually, in the Astrodome, which is kind of funny. And it says here he fanned the side in the first inning, Joe Morgan, Ron Davis, and Hal King, and had 7 strikeouts in 3 innings, and he had a no-hitter for 5 and gave up only 3 hits in 6 2/3 innings. So he was an animal even when he first started. It was just the consistency for Nolan wasn't there when he first started. But these are, of course, that wasn't like the first time he pitched. The first time Nolan pitched was in 1966, and he pitched against the Atlanta Braves. He gave up a home run to Joe Torre, and he also struck out Pat Jarvis for his first strikeout, and he struck out Hall of Famer Eddie Matthews for his second strikeout, and then he struck out also Dennis Menke for his third strikeout in that game. But I think he only went like 1 or 2 innings in that game until he got pulled. But 1968 was his first start, and of course, his starts were basically limited early on in his career due to his military service, because he was in the National Reserves, so he had to go to base duty. I don't know how any of this stuff works, so excuse my ignorance, but he had duties towards the military when he first started, so he often had to go away and do those duties in between his pitching times. So the Mets got frustrated. He couldn't get any consistency with his starts, and so it kind of like hindered his progression in pitching. So, but moving on, we're getting to his first Angels card, which is awesome. Just show it here. So he's in the beginnings of that high leg kick, and it has the Angels symbol down there, which is awesome. And young Nolan with he's got the eye black stuff on. That's pretty awesome. Love that card. But this just looks so cool. I just love these photos again. Just so crisp. On the back here's the back. So each one of these are numbered on the baseball. But this one here talks about his being traded, of course, after the 1971 season to the Angels in 1972 for Jim Fregosi. Him and Don Rose and Francisco Estrada and Leroy Stanton were the four guys that were traded for Jim Fregosi. So, and I will be covering that soon, hopefully, if I can find the time to do the final edits on my video. That should be coming out shortly, but it talks about the trade in 1972. So, great card here. Next card, number 5, second card with the Angels. Again, it's during a windup, but this is when he's finishing his windup, getting ready to deliver the pitch. He's wearing number 30 here. On the back, there's the back. And then this one talks about basically his first start at Anaheim Stadium, which is where he, that was his home field. He struck out 10 batters and shut out the Minnesota Twins on July 9th of 1972. The score was 2-0. Oh, wait, no, that wasn't his first start. It talks about his first start where they won 2-0, and he struck out 10. And then on July 9th, he struck out 16. And he threw a one-hitter in a 2-0 twilight shutout of the Boston Red Sox. So, and then it talks about his 2 no-hitters. So he was only the fifth pitcher in history to pitch 2 no-hitters in the same season, of course. And then it talks about him breaking Sandy Koufax's strikeout record in the following season with 383 Ks. So, and it also talks about him breaking Sandy Koufax's single season strikeout record in 1973 with 383 Ks. So, very cool card there. All right, third and final card with the Angels. I don't know, I think it's him laughing or he's yawning or something. I imagine he's laughing there. Again, I've never seen that picture before, so cool. That's the back. And this one talks about the Angels captured the first divisional championship in 1979. He only had a 16 and 14 record in 1979, though, but he led the league in strikeouts and shutouts. And then, afterwards, of course, he was traded to Houston because basically the owner thought that he could buy two 8-8 pitchers to get the same results for a lot cheaper money, which that's a ridiculous statement. I mean, Nolan was. I don't think Nolan was the problem. It was probably the amount of hitting and offense that the Angels had at that time. So Nolan. I mean, how much more can you do? You throw in no hitters and shutouts and pitching 13 innings. Having 300 or more strikeouts in a year. I don't think that's your problem. I think probably the offense is your problem. But he was traded after the 1979 season to the Astros, of course. And so this is his first Astros card here, which I think is on. I think it's on the Fleer card that this picture or similar pictures used. But again, I don't know. I'm a big fan of the orange hat Astros. I think that's a great hat, and it just it goes well with the Astros logo and the contrasting blue on the card. I don't know. I just love that card. I think it's awesome. So the back here talks about how John McMullen signed Ryan to a 4-year contract for $4.5 million. So in 1980, Nolan became the first $1 million man per year contract. So he became one of the richest. He was the richest player in baseball. And it says here, won't be too many more years before this kind of money is commonplace. Jeez, if they only knew. If they only knew how crazy baseball was today. I mean, my goodness, some of these guys are making tons more money than that. But so that was the first card with the Astros. Here comes the second. Nice throwing motion with Nolan there, getting ready to deliver a fastball. Here's the back there. And this one talks about he became the first pitcher to surpass 4,000 strikeouts after he struck out Danny Heap. He also became the fifth pitcher in history to record over 100 wins in each league, which is kind of crazy. Only Jim Bunning, Cy Young, Gaylord Perry, and Ferguson Jenkins had accomplished that feat. So being on that list is pretty awesome. But that's card number 8 of the set. Card number 9 of the set is his final card with the Astros. And again, never saw that picture before, but I love it. Like the Astros uniform colors and just the design of the card in general are very appealing to me anyway, with the black hat and the orange star. Everything just kind of just matches perfectly, and it just, I don't know, pulls at my strings there as being like an awesome card. So I like that card a lot. Here's the back, number 9. So this one talks about the 1988 season at the age of 42. He was not willing to just ride off into the sunset. So this again talks about him being traded yet again to the Rangers because the Astros basically thought, hey, you're 42 years old, man. You're done. Which is just nuts to me because, yeah, most people would be past done by now. Most pitchers don't last until they're 40 or, even into their mid-30s in Major League Baseball. So, I mean, Houston was thinking wisely probably, but they didn't understand that they didn't have a mortal man on their team. They had a legend and a beast. So Nolan had much more in his tank. And so after it talks about here how he received lucrative offers from other teams and stuff. He chose to go with the Rangers because it was closer to home, because Nolan was always a family man first, which I can definitely respect that. And so he chose to remain close to home, so he signed with the Rangers in 1989. So that brings us to his first card with the Rangers. which is pretty awesome. I think there's like some starting lineup cards that use this picture or something close to it. The back, number 10. And this one it talks about how they only, the Rangers only sold out Arlington Stadium only like 17 times. So they weren't like a big winning team with a big fan base that was coming to the games constantly. So when Ryan came, they basically, he was like a moneymaker. They sold out the first 2 years Ryan pitched for the Rangers. The stadium sold out 15 times. So in the first 17 years of the Rangers' history, they only sold out 17 times in 17 years. In the first two, they sold out 15 times. So Nolan was definitely making them money, even though they had to spend money to get him. I think that was a fair trade. Um, so they offered him a $10 million contract in 1991 with a salary of $4 million for 1992 and 1993. So Nolan was making pretty good money back then. At the end of his career, especially. You know, I mean, this dude was leading the league in strikeouts in his 40s, so he wasn't no slouch when he was getting older. In fact, he was actually getting better with age. His stats got better as he aged, so he was like a fine wine. um, so card number 11 is this card here. Back. On this one, it talks about his throwing a 6th no-hitter, of course. He was the oldest pitcher ever to pitch a no-hitter, 43 years and 4 months and 12 days. And he was also the only pitcher ever to throw a no-hitter in 3 consecutive decades. So, yeah, of course, Nolan was a beast. He threw no-hitters when he was in his 40s. Not a lot of people can say they could do that. I'm lucky if I can throw 30 miles per hour in my 40s. But Nolan was, of course, we know Nolan was just the man. So finally, his last card of the set, and you'll see why I say that, is this one, which I think is awesome. It's just a straight on portrait photo of Nolan there with the facsimile autograph. I think that's really sharp. Just a nice card, man. I love that card. I mean, they did a good job with these. I mean, I don't know who designed these. I couldn't find any information, but if it was Guyana, hey, good job, Guyana. You guys know what you're doing when it comes to making cards. I don't know who it was. Or the Sports Stamps Collectors Association. Looking those guys up, I found like a vague address somewhere in New York that mentioned that this is where that association was at, but it said it was closed. And when I did a Google Maps search, there was no like listing for them, so I don't know how long ago it closed. But this is the back of number 12, and on this one it just talks about, basically sums it up. Is a 28-year career or 27-year career. He struck out no less than 46 MVP award-winning players, 11 brother combinations, and 7 father and son combinations. And I think it's actually 8 if you watch Dan and Darren's video. I think it's 8. He's the only pitcher ever to record 300 wins and 5,000 strikeouts in his career, of course. So this is the 12th card, but there is actually a 13th card, and I guess it came in randomly distributed boxes. I'm not 100% sure, but I didn't even know about it until Brent was telling me about it during our show this week, which if you haven't watched it, I will post it up here. But he talks about the autograph. So there's an autograph version of this card that has signed in blue ink, and he was telling me that the gloss and whatever pen that they used didn't really mesh too well, and so there's like some, I want to say, wearing or bubbling of the ink on the card. So the autograph's probably not going to be like a PSA 10 if you were to grade it, um, because of there's just some issues with it. But I'll show you a picture of the card here as well. It's from Brent's video with him holding it, which I just thought was a cool card. And so since he has great peer pressuring abilities, I have since went and bought the card. Because one, this card looks awesome, and two, it just with the autograph, I couldn't pass it up. It was pretty affordable, so I just went ahead and just grabbed it while I could. So there's that. But so I forgot to also say that the back of the autograph version of this card is different than this back. If it's truly an autograph pool, then this is going to say like this back is the back will just basically say, this proves that Nolan Ryan signed this card. It doesn't give this back here. So the back on the official um, autograph cards will be different than this. And I just wanted to tell you that because sometimes people will send these to the foundation, have Nolan sign it, and then people think that it's the original autograph, where it's not going to be. It'll have, if it's from the foundation, it'll have this back still. Whereas if it was the original pack pulled, it'll have the back that states, this is proof that I, Nolan Ryan, have signed this card. So I just wanted to bring that up because I forgot to mention it originally. So there's that. Thanks. That, my friends, is the end of the Sports Stamps Collectors Association Guyana Farewell Collection, or what it's summed up or abbreviated as the SSCA Guyana Farewell Collection. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen that before. I think it's still up in the air whether or not those were actually used for stamps, even though the COA, whether or not you want to believe that or not, says that yes, it is an official stamp or postage material for the government of Guyana. Um, when I did go to like Guyana stamps, like on other websites, I couldn't find it. So I think it's still up in the air as to whether or not it's actually a stamp, because it's not designed like a stamp. It doesn't have a blank back. It doesn't have an adhesive back to it, unless I completely missed it and it's like something that you have to peel away. But I don't think it is. It doesn't look like that. So I don't know. Couldn't find a lot of information on it, but whatever information I did find, I thought it was pretty interesting. Um, they were actually, the one website said that they were issued in 1995 versus 1994. So I'm not 100% sure that if they were real stamps, then they were used in 1995. But that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you thought of them. And thanks for watching. And I'll see you at the next one. Thanks. Bye.